Gabby Prescott, the woman at Happy's Place who can turn a quiet room into a 5-alarm situation before somebody has even finished pouring the first drink. She is loud, she is dramatic, she has an opinion about everything. She talks when nobody asks her to talk, panics when nobody else is panicking, and somehow makes every small problem feel like it has been handed directly to her by the universe as a personal insult. If something breaks at the bar, Gabby has a theory. If somebody is keeping a secret, Gabby has already imagined 12 worse secrets. If a stranger walks through the door, Gabby has decided whether they are trustworthy, dangerous, attractive, or probably all three before they reach the counter. And that is why she is easy to understand at first. She is the funny one, the chaos machine, the person the show sends into a scene when it needs the temperature turned up. But somewhere underneath all the noise, Happy's Place has been telling a quieter story about Gabby, a story that does not arrive with a sad piano song or a big speech in the middle of the bar. It shows up in the moments after the joke lands, in the way she keeps moving, in the way she makes everything sound lighter than it is, and in one decision that changes the way you see almost every loud, ridiculous thing she does. Gabby wants to become a mother. Not someday, in the vague, comfortable way people say it when they assume life will eventually hand them the right person at the right time. Now. And that one word changes everything. Because suddenly, the woman everybody thought was just there to make the room funnier is sitting with a question that is not funny at all. What do you do when the life you pictured does not arrive on time? What do you do when you have spent years waiting for love to become stable, for the right man to become real, for the future to finally start, and then one day you realize that waiting is its own decision? Gabby does not say it that way. Of course she does not. Gabby would probably say something about finding a donor with good hair, good teeth, and a family tree that does not look like a warning label. But that is the trick. The joke is the cover. And the cover is hiding somebody who has reached a point in life where she can no longer pretend she has all the time in the world. So let's lay it out in order. Why Gabby might be carrying the biggest fear in Happy's Place. Why her search for motherhood is not just another wild storyline. And why the woman who makes everybody else laugh may be the one who has spent the longest time trying not to admit how badly she wants something to stay. The first thing to understand about Gabby is that she does not enter a room like somebody who expects to be overlooked. She enters like a parade. She has confidence. Or at least she performs confidence so well that nobody is supposed to notice the difference. She knows how to take up space. She knows how to make Bobby react. She knows exactly how far she can push Emmett before he gives her that look. And she knows that if a moment gets too quiet, she can fill it before anybody has time to ask what she is really thinking. That is a useful skill in a bar. A bar is built on people trying not to say what they mean. They come in after bad days, after breakups, after fights. They order something cold, tell a story that is only half true, and wait for somebody to make them feel less alone. Gabby understands that world. She understands how to make a person laugh when they would rather cry. She understands that sometimes a ridiculous comment is kinder than a serious question. She understands that a room can be saved by one person refusing to let it go quiet. But people who are good at saving everybody else from silence are often running from their own. And Gabby has had plenty of time to become good at that. For a long time, her life seems like the kind of life sitcoms love to give the funny woman. Dating stories, bad choices, weird men, the occasional disaster that becomes a story at work the next day. Everybody laughs because Gabby laughs first. She makes herself the punchline before anyone else can. That is what makes her feel safe. If you are the one telling the embarrassing story, then nobody can use it against you. If you make a joke about your own bad luck, then it cannot hurt as much when somebody else notices it. And if you keep the room laughing, nobody has to stop and ask why the same person is always going home alone. Then Season 2 gives Gabby something that cannot be laughed away. She decides she wants a child. Not because she has found the perfect relationship, not because she is planning a wedding, not because life has finally lined itself up in the neat order people always promise it will. She decides that motherhood is something she wants enough to pursue on her own. And at first, the show plays it exactly the way you would expect. Gabby looking at potential donors is funny. The questions are funny. The way she approaches it is funny. The fact that she needs more information than a profile can possibly give her is funny. She does not just want a donor, she wants a full investigation. She wants answers. Medical history, personality, background. The kind of details that make everybody around her wonder if she is choosing a father for a child or casting the lead in a movie about her future. And then she considers Emmett. That is where the whole thing stops being simple. Because Emmett is not some anonymous name on a screen. He is part of the bar, part of the little family that has formed around Bobby. He is somebody Gabby knows, somebody she trusts, somebody whose good qualities she has seen up close. And for a moment, that possibility puts everybody in an impossible position. Bobby wants to help Gabby. She wants to be supportive. But Emmett is also the man Bobby has started to care about. So suddenly, Gabby's dream and Bobby's new happiness are standing in the same room, both asking to be treated gently. That is a very sitcom situation. It is awkward. It is messy. It is full of jokes waiting to happen. But underneath it is something painfully real. Gabby is not asking, who would be fun to date? She is asking, who could help me build the family I may not have much more time to build? That is a completely different question, and it is one that comes with a kind of loneliness people do not always talk about. There is a particular ache in wanting something ordinary after life has refused to make it easy. A home, a child, a person who stays. For some people, those things arrive almost by accident. They meet someone, time passes, plans happen. One day they look around and realize they have built the life they always assumed would come. For Gabby, it is not happening that way. She has to choose it. She has to organize it. She has to ask hard questions out loud that other people get to avoid because their future arrived in a more familiar package. And that takes courage. But courage does not mean she is not scared. In fact, the more you watch Gabby, the more her big personality starts to make sense. It is not just that she likes attention. It is that attention is proof that she is still connected to people. That she is still in the middle of things. That she has not drifted to the edge of the room while everybody else is building lives she only gets to hear about. She needs Bobby's opinion because Bobby is not just her boss. Bobby is one of the people who knows her well enough to see through the performance. That is why the donor storyline matters so much. Gabby could have made that choice privately. She could have picked a name, filled out paperwork, and told everyone afterward. Instead, she brings Bobby in. She asks Bobby to help vet the men she is considering. She wants Bobby's judgment. She wants Bobby's blessing. And when you look past the comedy of it, that is an incredibly vulnerable thing to ask. It is like saying, I know I make everything ridiculous. I know I am usually the one making you laugh. But this matters to me. Please take it seriously. And Bobby does. Maybe not perfectly. Maybe not without panic. But she does. Because that is what Happy's Place is slowly becoming. Not just a bar. Not just a workplace. A group of people who have somehow become responsible for each other's hearts. Bobby is grieving a father she thought she knew. Isabella is trying to find a place in a family she did not know existed. Emmett is carrying secrets and old promises. Steve and Dakota are both, in their own ways, looking for a place where being strange does not mean being alone. And Gabby is trying to create a future before she feels like it is too late. That is why her story fits this show so well. Everybody at Happy's Place is dealing with some version of the same problem. They are all trying to make a family out of what life actually gave them, not what they expected to receive. Gabby just says it louder. And there is another part of this that makes her story sadder than it first appears. When Gabby talks about becoming a mother, she does not sound like somebody chasing a fantasy. She sounds like somebody who has thought about it for a long time. The urgency did not appear overnight. It has probably been sitting underneath all the jokes, all the dating stories, all the loud entrances, for years. Maybe that is why she wants so much control over the process. Because this is one part of her life she cannot leave to chance anymore. She cannot wait for a man to become reliable. She cannot wait for romance to turn into commitment. She cannot keep telling herself that next year will be different. At some point, she has to decide whether she wants to keep waiting for the life she imagined or start building a different one. And that decision is brave. But it is also sad. Not sad because there is anything wrong with choosing motherhood on your own. There is not. It is sad because you can feel the dream underneath the decision. The dream of not having to do it alone. The dream of meeting someone who makes all the questions easier. the dream of being chosen without having to first turn it into a plan. Gabby is not weak for wanting that. She is human. And Happy's Place does something smart by not turning her into a tragic character. It lets her stay choices are still difficult. The fear is still there. And the show has not given her a neat ending because real life does not usually give people neat endings in the middle of the story. But maybe that is what makes her arc feel honest. She is not waiting for the perfect moment. She is not pretending she has no regrets. She is not letting the fact that life got complicated convince her that she missed her chance. She is still trying. And when you strip away the drama, the loud voice, the wild stories, and every joke about Gabby being too much, that is what remains. A woman who has spent years making everybody else's day brighter. A woman who may have been disappointed more times than she admits. A woman who wants a child, wants a home, wants a future, and is finally brave enough to say that wanting those things matters. Gabby is the funny one at Happy's Place. But she is not just the funny one. She is the person standing at the edge of a new life, terrified and hopeful at the same time, trying to build something lasting before she convinces herself she has waited too long. And maybe that is why her story hits harder than it first seems. Because the loudest people are not always the happiest. Sometimes they are just the people who learned how to keep the room warm while they were still looking for a place to belong. If you enjoy seeing familiar sitcom characters from the angle the jokes usually hide, subscribe to Then and Still. Because sometimes, the biggest stories are not happening in the center of the room. Sometimes they are sitting quietly underneath the laugh.